All my life been a derelict, derelict. All my friends, they wish me dead, they wish me dead. Every day is filled with dread, filled with dread. All my life been a derelict. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so feels so typical. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so feels so typical. Life been a derelict, never change, yeah, I swear to it. And of all the times I've been down and out, this time was different, I welcomed it. Every day that I fail to quit, I wind up here in the state I'm in. The heavy weight, cause it's bound to break, I need a break, the skin I'm in. Tip of my tongue tastes like battery acid. Try to push forward, I cannot push past it. Feel the blood on my tongue, it tastes metallic. Another day passes, I don't break the habit. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so it feels so typical. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so it feels so typical. So typical. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so feels so typical. I've got the diamond clue, swallowing me, falling into everything that I do, everything I get so feels so typical. There's been plenty of moments that I fell in hard times. More often than not, getting faded was my lifeline. I realized that I've always struggled with change, but sometimes you gotta rearrange before you go insane. I've been doing my best to stay true to myself, put my next foot forward and smoking dope for my health. I never give up the music till I'm rolling in wealth. Some days I swear this basement's my own personal hell. Well, I love the sound of the city. Goddamn, I love the sound of the city. Yeah, yeah. I'm wide awake when you're with me. I feel better when you got my back, yeah. Red eyes, I'm sky high. I think this might be the best night that I've ever had, that I've ever spent with you. I confess I'm obsessed with the sex. Heart palpitations every time that she texts. I admit that we ain't always been the best for each other, but what is love without the little test? Girl, you know you're my sneaky link. When I'm with you, my ego shrink. I'm just craving time for us alone. I think about you every time I'm home smoking dope. I love the sound of the city. Goddamn, I love the sound of the city. Yeah, yeah. I'm wide awake when you're with me. I feel better when you got my back, yeah. Red eyes, I'm sky high. I think this might be the best night that I've ever had, that I've ever spent with you.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Happy to see so many people here today. Gonna answer a lot of questions. I know, I've been tweeting I'm expecting a pullback, which I still am. And just because I'm saying I'm expecting a pullback does not mean I'm taking shorts, does not mean I'm just shorting the shit out of this market. That's not what we do. We wait for setups, we wait for confluence, we wait for invalidation points to show. That way we're saying, hey, if the short doesn't work, we're probably going to continue upwards. But yeah, let's just get into it. Today will probably be quick. Just letting you guys know, I am most likely coming down with a sinus infection. I get 2 of them every year. One right before the spring, right before spring starts, and then one right before the winter starts. So depending on how healthy I am, I started taking medicine to help prevent it. But it's one of those things where once I know it's happening, it's probably set in stone. So we'll probably be streaming Wednesday and Friday. I'd expect to, but if I don't, it's because I'm probably sick. What's up, Yasser? How's it going, man? Hope Australia's treating you good. It's okay. SPX. Went over this morning. Okay, a couple of things, guys. Ultimately, macro-wise. So if you think of a giant macro arrow, we're saying up. But realistically, that means we're going to do this, right? We're going to have pullbacks. We're going to have sideways. We're going to not just go up in a straight line forever. So I want you to think about how I'm telling you this now and relate it to Bitcoin, right? Relate this to Bitcoin. They're likely going to do the same thing. So SPX, I am expecting a pullback at some point, right? We're up significantly. We have had no sideways. We've had no correction. RSI is starting to be, pretty oversold, overbought. Doesn't mean we have to. It just means that it's likely, right? It's likely we're going to get a correction. Doesn't mean to short. It doesn't mean to do anything stupid. It just means, hey, we're probably going to get a correction. So the options are either we go up, we go sideways and up, or we retest and go up. Either way, the macro direction is up. Other than that, guys, we're in price discovery. There's not a whole lot to really discuss here. It looks very, very bullish in the grand scheme of things. We're pricing in rate cuts. We're ultimately seeing inflation coming down. We're seeing, I believe the jobs report was very, very positive. We're seeing a jobs growth. We're also getting rid of a president here soon that's really done nothing good for anybody. So ultimately, market's seeing a lot of really positive things. We have our list. It's still here. We have our list of all of these great things happening and why the market's going up, ultimately leading to our kind of macro arrow here, largest wealth transfer of all time, tech boom, markets easy access, so on and so forth. I repeat it all the time. Don't really feel like repeating it again. Moving on to the dollar. So the dollar is rejecting resistance, right? We rejected last week, hoping to reject this week and start heading downwards again. That's very, very, very macro bullish for everything that's not the dollar, right? If you think of the dollar and the S&P 500, they're generally inversely correlated. Now, there are periods where the dollar and S&P 500 have both gone up together, but for the most part, they're inversely correlated. Going back to, I guess maybe we'll look at the daily. Why not? Yeah, there's really nothing here on the daily, so sticking with the weekly. Hopefully, rejection. Would really like to see this come back down. I know the next question is, could this be a double bottom? Possibly, but we'd still have to break through this. I mean, we could range here for quite some time and go lower. Ultimately, I think we're going to break 100 and continue going lower as dollar dominance has been going down for quite some time. What do I think will happen to altcoins? I think altcoins will do whatever altcoins do. I don't have a direct answer. There's not really any clarity at the moment. Bitcoin's taking liquidity. Bitcoin dominance is still pumping very, very hard. The only altcoins that are doing anything right now, Ethereum's moving a little bit. And Tau, I think Ethereum and Tau are the only ones that have really moved at all. I know some of these are, look like they're doing nice because they're green today. But if you look at something like Ajax, it's hardly done anything. ICP is another one that's, again, hardly done anything over the last couple weeks. In terms of altcoin gains, right? If you're kind of new here, I wouldn't say disregard this. I give a private analysis every day, and we talk about scenarios and what what may or may not, or what will may or may not happen. Total. So total at the moment has a breakout. My only concern, and again, I talked about it this morning, is this, right? We have very, very clear divergences. We have very clear divergences between this point and now this point. We have not had hardly any correction. And by correction, I know a lot of you think that because we did this all the way down to here, that is correction. That is not correction. Okay, correction is when indicators can return back to the mean, when everything can stabilize, when volatility can build. We've talked about this for weeks. We have a massive amount of space in our Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands create volatility. Bollinger Bands help keep the trend moving upwards. There's a massive amount of space here. Just to give you a quick example, I know there's more space here. Massive amount of space here. You get that consolidation to continue. Or even a better example, I guess in this downtrend, massive amount of space here. We go sideways, these bands tighten a bit, that way we can continue going down. It doesn't mean they have to completely squeeze like this. It just means that when there is that space, usually you're retesting that mean, the middle part of the band, or coming back to, again, these moving averages, right? This retest here of the moving averages. Ultimately, guys, lots of overextension. Now, can this change? Sure. We could continue moving higher. And if we do, I'm not mad. A lot of you that have been here for a while know I have a very large spot position. It's worth almost worth $500,000. So if we continue going higher, it's fine with me. Nice summer weather here, fishing on the beach. That's awesome, man. DXY will fall to 90 to 88 next month, means blow off top in the markets. Obvious narrow, probably. Let's keep moving on, right? The theme is correction, and I want you guys to get that. The theme is correction. The theme is not bear market. The theme is not, hey, we're going to crash and go to zero. The theme is market correction, right? Market correction, not bearish. Guys, I'm ultimately macro bullish, and I keep tweeting, hey, we're probably going to get some correction, and it really is funny, and I don't take offense to it anymore. I've been in the crypto Twitter influencer space for a while. I've seen everything. I've gotten weird DMs. I've get, everything that you think has happened has happened. So when I see the people that are like, oh, you're that idiot that told everyone to sell at 17K and you've probably shorted this whole thing upwards, it's just comedy. I was probably one of the only people that was telling people to buy at 17K. It's just funny to me. Tether's looking for that breakdown. If it does break down, great. Again, my issue is, obviously we talked about Bollinger Bands and that massive amount of space here. But my other issue is, how big is this support, right? Because you have all these wicks here. Does this really go down to here? Do we really need to lose like 4.8% for that confident breakdown? Because you have what looks like breakout, you have rejection, breakout, retest, right? Now you have another retest here, and we're kind of sinking into what looks like support, but where does the support end, if that makes sense? I don't like having a gigantic box like this. To me, it doesn't make any sense. But for the time being, let's just experiment with it and see what happens. Moving on, getting into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's weekly, and this is where it becomes more obvious. You have massive divergences here. I know the chart looks good. The chart's pumped quite a lot. For anyone that follows, and I want to clear this because I know there's some new people here. For anyone that's been following, I started buying a massive spot position, at 100 to 150,000 in this area of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Matic, not Litecoin, sorry, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, Link, ICP, Ajax, Sol, whatever, Tau. Tau is a big one. Crow's a big one that I have. Digibyte's a big one that I have. So, and why? Because ultimately, and I'm relating this again to the SPX. Remember, we just talked about this, the macro arrow, right? Because in my mind, we were down 80%, right? It seemed like, everyone was as bearish as they possibly could be. And if you remember in the bull market, at the top, everyone was as bullish as they possibly could be. So in my mind, the macro arrow is going up, right? Macro-wise, we're probably going to go up. Now, if you look at this, we had corrections along the way. We had long periods of sideways, and we're ultimately buying opportunities for the swing trade. So DCA macro, I'm bullish as can be, right? I think this is incredibly bullish, right? We're bullish. And that relates to this arrow right here. Now, swing trade-wise, trader-wise, whatever the hell you want to call it, I am slightly bearish, right? So swing trading. And why? When you look at indicators, because for the macro, you don't necessarily look at indicators as much. You're more looking at the weekly. You're more looking at the amount of really the percentage gains and when does it make sense to take profit. But anyways, there's a lot of different things. You look at liquidity and where's liquidity going, especially with crypto. But swing, why are we bearish? We're going over these reasons now. We have bearish divergences on the weekly, right? And I'm going to remove some of this stuff. I think we get the idea. Swing trade-wise, slightly bearish. We have divergences. Again, with the Bollinger Bands, look at the space between the bottom and the top band. We are at the top band, right? Bitcoin is also, and this is kind of like a historical thing for you to study, Bitcoin has put in more than 100% gain, right? We're talking about 102% from these lows with absolutely no correction. And by correction, and going to zoom in here because I explained this morning. I'm sure there are some of my people are in here and looking at this again. I want you to go from here to here, right? Yeah, 20% price correction. Look at RSI. RSI went from 66 to 67. Does that sound like a correction to you? Does that sound like, hey, we've corrected enough to say, hey, we can probably, continue upwards? No. Yes, you could argue we got some sideways. That's possible. But now, looking at it some more, you have all of these divergences. You also have a volume difference with, I believe, on the daily and on the weekly. You have a big volume issue, or you're starting to. Volume, and again, volume on the weekly is tough. And for, again, new people, this was wash trading. Ignore that volume. That was Binance wash trading. Excuse me. But when you get into weekly volume, part of my issue is volume looks, I'll give you this, volume looks okay here. And volume is my biggest indicator. But my biggest problem, again, we rejected with the most volume we've seen all year. Generally, when you see the most volume, again, that's a sign of reversal. It's not necessarily like the sign of reversal, but it's one of them, right? And now we go into the daily. What's wrong with the daily? Again, you have this issue where you have all of these bearish divergences as we're going up, right? All of these problems. And again, another thing and another counterpoint is maybe they don't matter. Maybe we're truly back into a bull market. For me, the confirmation for a bull market is breaking all-time highs. It's, setting in stone that the bottom is in. Guys, when you break all-time highs, that was the bottom, right? You can always make assumptions that 15K is the bottom, but what if we just do this, right? Right? Something like this. I mean, probably not. Again, for me, we're going to continue riding this kind of macro uptrend, which is, again, why I have not sold any spot. But it's just interesting. I'm super kind of blown away. And this is where you get into the territory, hey, are we actually in a bull market? Because when you're in a bull market, none of this matters. RSI does not matter. MACD doesn't matter. For the most part, volume does matter, but volume can come in very randomly. So that raises a question, are we in a bull market? Because we're moving like we are, right? Since the ETF got approved, we've been moving like we are. And for me, and I'll be completely straightforward, I thought the ETF would be a sell the news event. I also saw the, potential head and shoulders here. I was like, yeah, we're going to reverse ETF. Makes complete sense. Short it, buy back in the 30s, whatever. But moving on, looking at our indicators, macro, we're bullish. Swing trade wise, we're expecting correction. Again, looking at more indicators. 4 hour now. This is, again, You're approaching more areas of exhaustion. You now have divergences on the 4-hour. Very, very evident. Volume, I will say, looks decent, but again, volume spiking as we're starting to kind of sell off or experience some kind of tailwind of exhaustion. You look at the 30-minute or even the 15-minute, because the 15-minute is going to show the kind of daily trend from this morning. Look at the 15-minute. And once again, you are now making divergences. So, is it a perfect system? No. Excuse me one moment. I had the lady go to the store. She had a question. One moment. Okay. I had to get a prescription filled. She needed to know a little bit of information. Anyways, we're seeing all these signs of kind of not necessarily like reversal, but correction, right? We're overextended. So where could that correction take place? And now we're going to kind of lean into, you're like, Roman, you're talking about correction. Okay, where would we correct to? Best case scenario, if you're very bullish, we do something like this, right? Correction here. You could correct all the way back down to here and go up. Or, we could have a much deeper correction to the 30s and go up. Either way, all of my scenarios, and I want to be straightforward, all of my scenarios say we're going back up, right? I'm not crypto savvy. I don't believe that we're going below 15K ever again. I don't believe in a 3K Bitcoin. I think that is the dumbest thing anyone's ever said. But I do believe in, my trading system and my indicators. And another thing I'll kind of answer, because some people ask like, oh, well, when is it invalidated for you? For me, at this point, it's all-time highs, right? I mean, if we start getting in like the 55K, the really high up there, things are really churning, then okay, you got me. But part of the reason why I don't have any FOMO and I don't really care what direction we go, guys, for that whole year and a half or whatever period it was, we were buying. We were open to buying. We have a position. Again, my position's almost worth $500,000. And the altcoins that consist of that have hardly moved. Most of it's Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And Link's kicking ass. Always appreciate, look forward to these analysis. Thanks. Oh, anytime, man. I'm really glad that you guys get value from it. Really, really glad you guys get value from it. And, sometimes, guys, and I'll answer this again. Let's say you have FOMO right now. Let's say you didn't buy at all. You were one of those people that you followed Crypto Savvy. You got the wrong information. I'm talking worst case scenario. You got the wrong information. You didn't buy here. You thought that this market was full of itself, so on and so forth. Okay, here's the thing. When you have this, when you see all this green, you can't buy. It is not only a personal rule of mine when I worked in professional finance, it's the same rule. You cannot buy when you see all this green. You buy on red, you sell on green. So looking at all this, if you're not in, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, get on both knees and pray for a pullback, right? Because there is a chance that we just continue to do this. We did it in 2020. Once we broke 14,000, right? There was a pullback at right before all-time highs got broken. That was your chance, right? If you didn't get in anywhere here, this was your chance. Get in at 19, 20K. It's like 20 days of sideways movement. We actually had like a 30% correction. Let's just take a look. 19 to 20K. Corrected 17%, right? And then another smaller correction of 11%, but ultimately, you're looking at 24 days, so a whole month of sideways, right? You had 4 weeks to get in. You could have said, okay, we got a little triangle here, bought on any of these breakouts, and as soon as we started breaking that horizontal, you could have added more and held this really all the way to 40K. So you would have made at least a 2x, right? And trading's not perfect. People aren't perfect. Nothing ever, works in your favor all the time. But if you're in that case, you wait for a pullback, you wait for sideways, you wait for a flag to form, you wait for something to trade. Because right now, and I know that this is obviously some hindsight, and I'm pretty confident it will happen. When this thing corrects, it's going to happen immediately. It's going to happen with no warning. It's going to happen when you're asleep, right? I've seen it before. I wouldn't say hundreds of times, but I've seen it enough to know what happens. And a really good example, I remember this move, right? This move from, what is this, like 9 to 12? Like a 30% move upwards. Nice bull price action, going up really nicely. We go up a little bit more. Where are your signs for reversal here, right? Ultimately, we have no bearish divergences, nothing. Nothing on the daily looks bad at all, right? Over a 2-hour period, we pumped, right? Got to 12.2 and dumped all the way to 10.4. It was like no shit over like a 4-hour period. And just to prove that, I just want you guys to get the idea, because I would hate to see some of you FOMO and then price dumps, and then you just never want to look at this market again, right? Okay, it wasn't over a 4-hour period, but in 4 hour, actually it was over a 4-hour period. We went from 12.1 all the way down to 10.4. Okay, I'm showing you this to help you. I have your best interest in mind, right? The 4-hour, you could argue, had bearish divergences here. Well, what does our 4-hour have now? It has the same kind of setup, same divergences. This happened at 2 a.m. The only reason I saw it is because I was up playing video games with my chart open, partially because it was a nice trade. We had gotten in down here. We had added more, I believe, on this breakout here. I was trading with a friend as well. And we were kind of holding, and I actually panic sold half my position at like 10.5 or some shit, because I was like, oh my god, what is happening? And we ended up bouncing, getting a nice little double bottom, got in a little bit, and ultimately made the head and shoulders before starting the bull run. More on that a different day, but I'm saying it to help you. Look at the 4-hour. You have massive divergences. You have 3 levels of divergence. In trading, you have the notion of the rule of 3. Here's your rule of 3, right? It's all over the weekly, it's all over the daily, it's all over the 4-hour. Maybe it doesn't play out, but when you're trading, you use your indicators to your advantage, and these indicators aren't in the advantage of the uptrend. Yeah, and that's a good point, Raphael. Don't chase pumps. Guys, it's different if you long a breakout. Like you get that breakout, sure, long it. You have that invalidation, you can long that. For me, I didn't long, and that was partially because of the daily, right? I didn't believe that we were going to continue much higher. I mean, did we? Yeah. It's awesome for people that longed. My system didn't detect it. I had bearish price action. Ultimately, breaking out really wasn't the best volume, right? We had very average volume, at least in my opinion, very average volume. And the next day, we kind of just sent. So, unfortunate on my end. It was a little 10% trade I missed, but not too shaken up about it. I'm sure there will be opportunities in the future. Plus, my DCA is capitalizing on those gains. Let's get into a couple other things and call it a day. Bitcoin dominance. Just pumping. This ultimately looks like... I wanted to make sure you guys couldn't hear my washing machine because it's going crazy right now. This looks like sideways to go up. Alts are... It's really not time for alts yet. Right? Sideways bull flag to go higher. Once that liquidity comes from Bitcoin to altcoins, that's when we have our altcoin movement, altcoin kind of season. And one thing I showed people this morning, and I'll show you guys this now, just because I'm feeling extra nice today. Let's do this. Actually, I might need to pull it up here. So, Bitcoin dominance. Where is it? I was here. Ah, crap. Hold on. I have to fix this. So, one thing real quick. I'm so shocked. My washer is going crazy. I stuffed it. I can't believe the mic's not picking it up. But it's going crazy. Okay, so here's your Bitcoin and Bitcoin down. Or excuse me, that's Bitcoin. See, this is what I'm saying. I'm getting a sinus infection, just blowing my. It's just making my brain crazy. So here's Bitcoin dominance. So, from here to here, right? Here to here. That is Bitcoin's bull market, right? And I want you guys to notice something. When Bitcoin goes from Bitcoin taking liquidity and putting in the gains and alt's not really doing shit, when does that change? When does it change from Bitcoin's taking liquidity to now alts are taking liquidity? And it happens here. Bitcoin tops at 40K, dumps all the way down to 28K. What happens? Bitcoin dominance also drops. Alts dropped as well. Alts definitely had a pullback. That thing is so loud. She's going to get home and be pissed if it's going off. It sounds like a machine gun. But anyways, Bitcoin dominance goes down with Bitcoin going down. Now, what does that mean? That means that liquidity is now shifting from alts to Bitcoin, especially during a correction. So, in my opinion, I have this hypothesis that we need a correction to take liquidity from Bitcoin to alts, so that alts can start taking dominance. And if you think about it, right, these major funds, these major organizations, they're not going to chase green candles and buy, right? That doesn't happen. So if Bitcoin dominance, let's say Bitcoin dominance does this and Bitcoin does this, alt season, or let's say alts start taking over. That's what you want to see. You want to see that big correction. It doesn't have to be a huge correction. It could just be to 44K. But you want to see that change in liquidity, right? When Bitcoin drops, you want to see dominance drop as well. That means that alts are likely being bought up. Alts are holding stronger. And when the market pumps again, alts are going to pump more than Bitcoin does. We can definitely hear that loud-ass washing machine. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Hold on. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I made the mistake of loading that thing up with a bunch of, I just came back from skiing, so I threw all my ski stuff in there, like a bunch of sweatshirts and stuff. So it's just like, it's just like shaking and stuff. Anyways, that was kind of my point for today. Will we get a correction? I'm fairly confident, right? I'm fairly confident it'll happen. Don't chase green candles. Don't go on Twitter and read all these people that say they've bought and they're going crazy and they called this and called that, because most of them didn't call shit. Stay level-headed. If we get the correction, buy. If we don't, sorry. That's just how you have to kind of look at it. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. I'm hungry. I want to make food. Got to go walk the dogs. But with all that said, guys, I plan to be here Wednesday. I might be sick again. I can feel it coming. Keep your eye out for the correction. I'll post updates. But with all that said, be patient, users management, and good luck trading.